All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to tonight's public hearing. Before we get started, please turn off your cell phones or other electronic devices to avoid any interruption. Well, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is Wednesday, May 22nd. The time is 6:06 p.m., set for our public hearing. Commissioner Daly, Commissioner Davidson are present. Commissioner Beck is absent. Madam Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda?
No, there are not.
All right, at this time, we have some unfinished business on the table.
Mr. Chairman, I move to remove the unfinished business from the table for consideration.
I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye? All right. Unfinished business is application 202-301-909-ZC-DA-S-MSP and 200-600-071-DM PEG Companies. Zone change of approximately 10 acres of the property from general commercial district to the high-density residential R12 district. A development agreement modification, a preliminary plat for 6 lots, and a master site plan for mixed-use commercial and residential development. This property is generally located at the northwest corner of 5 Mile Road and Lockwood Drive and contains 11.24 acres. Section 3, T.2N, R.1E, tabled from 1/16/2024. Now, at the previous meeting, we closed the public hearing, which means that we are no longer taking public testimony or additional submissions. The last step that we were at in this process was to, upon request of the parties, order a mediation between both sides to see if there could be any opportunities for compromise or meeting of the mind or anything like that with regard to amendment to this project. It was reported to us by our staff that the mediation was not successful. And so, that being said, it brings the matter before the board today on the, essentially the amended application of the PEG companies. So with that, I think it is now before the board for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I guess just to kind of review and comment, and I'd like your comments as well, but we received from the Planning and Zoning Committee recommendations for denial. As you said, the board has had extensive discussion starting in January regarding this and multiple discussions from both sides. We did facilitate mediation, the board did facilitate mediation in an attempt to get some kind of an agreement between the divergent parties. It appears to me that based on my reviewing of the code, there are still multiple options available under the C2 zoning for multiple options for so I would like your comment on that as well, in terms of your thinking on how you've reviewed the record.
Well, I certainly was disappointed that the mediation was not successful. Essentially, I think the divide from the two parties is that the applicant is looking to build more of a high-density housing type of development on what is zoned commercial. And so they're asking for a variance on that. And the opposition from the neighborhood is that they don't want to change the zoning, that they want the commercial designation to remain in place with the ultimate goal of having a commercial development there that they support. And, as we've gone back and forth in these hearings, we've tried to point out that this board can't dictate what goes in that property, that no matter what the the zoning designation remains. If somebody chooses to develop within that zoning designation, they can put something there that might not necessarily be desired by the surrounding neighborhoods. So, did hear back. I would say we've heard testimony that the neighbors are willing to take that option, where if this, I guess I would sum up the testimony is that they would rather have it be a vacant lot than have even a mixed use commercial residential with high density there. That I would say that boils down the vast majority of testimony from the neighborhood. Would you agree?
Yes, that they don't want any of the proposals that have been proposed in terms of commercial to mixed use. The board has discussed mixed use. It's a matter of how much the mixed use, which then would require a changing of the zoning code, which is what the request is. So it's a matter of which kind of development. And as you said, we are not in the business of dictating the kind of development. If it's zoned for development, then they can go through the normal processes of getting within the code. There are all sorts of options available under C2 Commercial Development Code available for development that just requires staff approval, not doesn't have to come to us necessarily.
And I think we discussed that. We asked the staff, okay, under current zoning designation, what would be allowed? And obviously, it's a broad category. So of course, there could be things that are developed under the current zoning, which wouldn't even necessarily come before the board. Again, that the neighborhood might not be supportive of. I mean, I think even self-storage was included in that C2 designation. And so again, the position I think that the neighbors are putting themselves in is the gamble of, well, we can support this project, which is not something we want, or oppose it, and you sort of gamble on the future of what potentially could be built on that intersection under the current C2 zoning designation.
Correct.
So that's, again, where this board is at to decide if we do want to grant the variance, change the zoning, and allow for largely residential with some mixed-use commercial. So again, the history on this, when it came before us the first time, I can't remember, I think there was no commercial on this project, or a small amount. We did discuss that the neighborhood and the board would like to see that PEG come back with a plan that offered more commercial space, which they did. We had another public hearing. Essentially, the same people showed up to testify again in opposition, feeling that it was not enough commercial added to their original proposal to ease any of the original concerns.
Right. Some of that was before my time, but yes, you're correct. This has been talked about by the board for multiple times. So,
well, again, we have their current proposal with the added commercial elements, the added mixed-use elements in front of us. And I think at this point, the board could vote to either approve the project, deny the project, table it for more consideration. I think those are our three options before us right now.
are those the three options? Are there other options?
Those are about your three options.
Okay. So what's your inclination?
Well, I'm really disappointed that we couldn't bring the two sides together to find some kind of a compromise that both sides could have at least partially agreed to. I would say I am leaning towards, again, after hearing the testimony, and again, this is the period of the year where, elections happen, so I've been in the community amongst the voters a little more than I would throughout the year, and I'm hearing more opposition towards these high-density projects just as a sort of get out into the community, which does sort of lead me to feel that perhaps this might not be a right fit for this particular
I guess I'm kind of inclined that direction as well, because there are multiple options under the C2 zoning for development. It's not totally restrictive in terms of what options are available for development. So it isn't totally closing off development. Back as you pointed out, the neighborhood understands, I think, clearly that what Z2 zoning allows, and as you said, some of the development that's available to them might not could just be approved without our even being involved in it.
You know, in situations like this, I often wonder, you know, when you have a large neighborhood of, I'd say, above average income, why not form some kind of a coalition of trust? You know, that option is always there to form a group to raise capital, you know, and purchase the land themselves. Again, that's the number one way to get what you want on a piece of land, is to buy it yourself. When you come before the government and ask for certain things, again, there's very little guarantee about what the future could be, but that always is an option for people who want to have more say on what's built on land, is to certainly buy it themselves. Anyways, I don't, if you'd like to deliberate any further, or if you're thinking about making a motion.
Well, I am. I think yes, I would make a motion then and see if you agree with it. I would move to deny application 2023019009 ZCDA SMSP and 2006-00071-DM PEG companies, based on the findings of fact and conclusions of law contained in the staff report, and move to table this application to what date would we have?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, it would be June 11th, open business meeting. And we do need the members of the audience to remain quiet. Mr.
Tabling
Chairman,
it,
Commissioners, that'd be June 11th.
June 11th. It's tabled because we have to make sure revise the findings of fact and conclusions of law before we can vote on them. And as was stated, there's no public comments right now, but so till June 11th, you said?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that is an open business meeting on June 11th.
Thank you. That's my motion.
Would you like to speak to your motion at all?
The motion is, I think as already said, the Planning and Zoning Committee recommended denial. The board discussed the application in the context of that, and in the context of additional mixed use. The mixed use that came forward is in this proposal. The board facilitated mediation in attempt to facilitate resolution beyond what was discussed before. There are multiple options available for development of the property under the current zoning code. That's the basis of my reason for making my motion.
All right, I'll let me ask staff if Commissioner Daley's motion passes, then where does that leave this case, and what are the options available to both parties?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Daley, if the motion passes, the project will be tabled to June 11th to allow staff to revise findings of fact to support your motion of denial, so the project will be denied, and then the underlying zoning designation will remain C2, commercial zoning designation. The property could essentially be developed in accordance with the zoning code standards for that zone.
And are there any appeal rights from that determination?
Mr. Chairman, termination?
Appeal rights. If this motion was granted, as far as both parties go, is this the end of the road, or is there another stage that can be
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Daly, typically we've seen folks ask for reconsideration. That is an option in the code, and then there is the courts would be the next opportunity for appeal.
All right, well, I'm going to second your motion. Again, I don't like being put in a position to have to turn down projects because I think overall we support commercial development and residential development as well. But after hearing a lot of public testimony, I think that this is not a project that would be a good fit for this neighborhood under the current proposal that's before us. So with that, I will go ahead and call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, with that, the motion passes. Is there any other business before the board?
David? No other business.
All right, so this matter is tabled to June 12th for a revised findings of fact, conclusions of law. June 11th?
11th,
And that'll be
regular
voted
business.
on at our regular open business meeting, Tuesday morning. All right, with that, I believe we are adjourned.